Morning, everyone, and thank you very much for being here this morning to hear about our new plan and proposal, A Better Way to a Safer Connecticut. We all deserve to live in a state where people feel safe. Picture living in a place where you feel safe walking alone to your car at night, filling up at a gas station, picking up your child from school, or even just cooking dinner in your kitchen. It's heartbreaking that this picture is not a reality for far too many people in our state today. Hartford is on pace for one of its deadly years in decades, with 29 murders reported as of October 2nd, a 61% increase. New Haven murders are up 37.5%, and shots fired are up 122% since 2019. The number of homicides in Connecticut increased 31% in 2020. Car thefts in Connecticut rose 42.5% from 2019 to 2020, and that number continues to increase every single day. In Waterbury, murder is up 28.6% and auto theft up 23%. The Waterbury police chief, joined by many others, is calling on lawmakers for help to do their job. We need immediate action to properly respond to crime. We need to ensure law enforcement and our justice system have the tools to keep all people safe. But it's so much more than just that. We also need action to prevent crime, to end the cycle of juvenile injustice and a lack of opportunity that pushes people, especially our young people, toward crime. We cannot ignore that Connecticut is dead last in job growth and income growth, and that Connecticut's economy is failing our children and failing our cities. We need to build a ladder out of poverty. We need good-paying jobs. We need safe housing, and we need to empower communities to thrive as a state. We are here today to share a plan that offers a better way to a safer Connecticut. A safer Connecticut, though, starts with a stronger Connecticut. It starts with an economy that can support jobs, build hope, and create a path to success. It starts with proactive policing, appropriate accountability for repeat offenders, and ensuring our justice system has the tools to successfully rehabilitate. It starts with meaningful and positive role models for our youth. These holistic ideas are meant to advance the conversation and open a door to action. At this point, I would like to allow Senator Formica to explain how we developed the plan and where we got our input from community. Senator, thank you.
Good morning. When we first began to see this uptick in crime, we immediately got together to get to work on some solutions. Not just by talking amongst ourselves as a caucus behind closed doors, but by going out into the community. We had proposed bills earlier this year to address juvenile crime and car thefts in particular, but when we saw the numbers coming out this summer, we heard day after day about murders, violence, and escalating crime. It became increasingly clear that the issue is so much deeper. We know the solution to stopping crime is not going to come from a bunch of politicos sitting under this golden dome. We'll have conversations together, but solutions must come with input from our communities, input from social workers and experts in the justice system, input from juvenile advocates and police, and input from victims and from community leaders. That's why over the last few months we have been out in our communities, in cities and towns across the state, talking to people who work with juveniles each and every day. Talking to our police, talking to community leaders about what has worked and what has not, what has failed, and where should we go from here. I want to thank the many individuals and organizations that the senators and our staff have had the privilege of speaking with over the last few months, and for sharing so freely their time and talents and thoughts. These conversations have led to the holistic proposals that we share with you today. So for further on those proposal overview, the ranking member of Judiciary, Senator John Kissel.
Thank you, Senator Formica. I'm State Senator John Kissel, and I serve about 100,000 folks in North Central Connecticut. I've been tremendously honored to be on the Judiciary Committee for the last 27 years, well over a decade as the ranking senator and a couple of years as one of the tri-chairs when the Senate was evenly split. I think Senator Kelly used the precise word. The approach that Senate Republicans are taking is holistic. In other words, we're not saying that this is all about juvenile car thefts or related juvenile crime, although that is clearly an area that needs addressing, and it needs addressing immediately. But Senate Republicans, and I want to again agree with my colleagues, Senator Formica and Senator Kelly, in praising our staff and the rest of my colleagues who have worked so tirelessly on this proposal, is that we've broken it down into 3 subsets. Essentially, we want to address reforms to juvenile crime. That's the first part, specifically, and I'll get to that in a second. Secondly, we want to address jobs and housing. And third, we feel that reforms that took place regarding law enforcement went way too far, and that some of them need to be rolled back. And also, we need to look at new areas where we can bolster law enforcement's ability to address issues regarding crime. So regarding juvenile justice first. If it's a domestic violence arrest, that individual is brought before the court within 24 hours or the next day, next available day before the court. We feel without a lot of effort, the judicial system could accommodate juvenile crimes charged and have those matters picked up by the court system, the juvenile courts, and have that start in the judicial process the next day. There's no reason to wait 2 weeks, and what I've heard over the meetings that I've had, and just to take a quick step back, we started along this path in part bipartisanly in the summertime, and that sort of broke down, but we did have several meetings. But what we learned was that quite often on these juvenile arrests, they're released within 6 hours by law. They won't be before a judge for 2 weeks. And quite often, they have a public defender, and they will ask for a 2-week continuance. That means that young person's out for about a month before anybody in authority addresses the underlying crime, and quite often other crimes take place in that period of time. And if one believes in turning lives around, and we have support services that can do that, we suggest that at that initial assessment, when they're immediately brought into the court system, we look into their family history, their criminal record, if any, what kind of other support services they need, education, tutorials, things like that. So we need to get our arms around these young people. It's not all young people by any stretch of the imagination, but there is this growing group of individuals that know the system does not work, and they continue to ratchet up and take advantage of that. And we need to really nip that in the bud right now. We can't wait. And throwing money at law enforcement will not address this. We need substantive change, and there are further reforms regarding juvenile justice that we're championing, all the way down to ankle bracelets, being able to monitor in real time, not just 9 to 5 as our state contracts currently allow, but if it's in the after hours, we don't really have the ability to pinpoint an individual's location. We have to circle back the next day, things like that. Let me get to part 2, and then I'm going to turn it over to my leadership who've done such a fabulous job. Part 2 is jobs and housing. Okay, the vocational schools and other areas where we can allow these young people to access what we have institutionally and supported financially, but are really not being utilized to their potential. There's jobs out there. You can't go almost anywhere in Connecticut without seeing a help wanted sign. It's not like we're living in an environment where young people can't get into the marketplace. They can. They do need the skill sets. They need the strength at home. They need supervision, but they also need the tools, the education. So we have vocational industrial schools out there that can offer great opportunities for young people. We've got teachers and mentors that want to step in and be of service. We've got not-for-profits that want to target those students, the young people with most needs, and get into their lives and turn those lives around. You know, there was an old saying years ago, shows how old I am, you know, the best thing to stop crime is a good job. I firmly believe that, and the best thing to show responsibility is a good job. Getting up, going to work, doing what you got to do. A lot of skill sets involved there, so we can do better there. We also can do better when it comes to housing. A lot of past policies with the best of intentions have undermined the nuclear family, and quite often in these households, there's no really good male role model. And we believe that we need to re-examine all of those things because in many respects, our current structure of laws sort of creates that unintentionally. Best of intentions in the early 70s, now we're seeing the result, unintended consequences, and we need to turn around, revisit these issues. Every kid, every person in Connecticut deserves to have a nice roof over their head, meals on the table, and a support structure. And to the extent our social policies do not enhance that or support that, and in fact have the effect of undermining that, we need to get our arms around that. And if there's a way to get good, responsible male role models into these family structures, one way or another, we should examine every opportunity to do that. The third area that we're focusing on is law enforcement. There was a lot of defund the police, protests against law enforcement saying that things went too far. And I would be the first to say that there were incidents where certain law enforcement officers went too far. Yes, but the reforms, they went too far as well. And now we have a situation where law enforcement, to some extent, feels that its hands are tied. They don't have the panoply of resources and methodologies that they need to use to get out there to battle crimes. These aren't young people just driving around neighborhoods saying that garage door is open. These are very smart individuals, perhaps an adult in charge of the gang, looking at Google Maps, targeting certain neighborhoods and saying, oh, those houses look really wealthy, bet you they have great cars, let's go steal some of those and then use them in other crimes. This is a thoughtful enterprise that law enforcement needs to get up to pace with. They need to be able to address high-speed chases if that is the decision by the officers engaged, and they can do it safely. Maybe the chiefs in that particular area say no. That's their decision, not ours. I'm not an expert on every nuance of law enforcement. But I feel, and my caucus feels, and my leadership feels, that right now, we've cast a bucket of cold water on law enforcement, retirements in record numbers, and we don't have young people that are looking at it like a career that they really want to invest their lives in. That's terrible. The thin blue line, law enforcement, is a reality. And we're seeing that. And the last thing that I'd like to see is people feeling so frustrated and so hopeless that they have to always be vigilant and on their guard, and God forbid they're putting groceries in their car at 9 o'clock at night, or they forgot to lock their car in their driveway and the blame is on them. No, we need law enforcement rapidly going to issues where things have taken place. So we need to revisit those reforms and circle back. We need to make sure that a juvenile that commits a horrible crime can get moved into the adult court. So it's bringing everything together. It's a holistic approach, and I'm so proud to be a part of the Senate Republican caucus and all my colleagues. And at this point in time, I know that Senator Kelly and Senator Formica probably will answer some questions. But again, these things really should happen now, not yesterday. And while some of these will have to be addressed in the Judiciary Committee in the next legislative session, a lot of these things can take place right now. And the public demands it right now. And someone's life is hanging in the balance right now. Thank you.
So, you know, we broke it down, the proposal, into really the three areas that Senator Kissel spoke about. One is the response to crime. Currently, that's a short-term response looking at our criminal justice system. The second is prevention and opportunity. That's looking at more of the wraparound services, the economic issues, and how can we make sure that there are positive mentoring opportunities in the lives of youth, and also that they have a meaningful alternative to criminal behavior. Those are more of the wraparound services that we've discussed. And then the last is obviously giving our police and law enforcement officers the tools necessary to do the job. That's what they're asking for. You see that from the Waterbury chief, that he's asking us for the tools. Just giving more money and more officers is not enough. They need the tools to do the job. So just in concluding, every family, once again, every person deserves to live in a state where they're safe. What is currently happening in our state is not working, and there is a better way. This holistic plan is meant to move us closer to action. We welcome input. We want more conversations. We need to involve police, community leaders, prosecutors, public defenders, youth advocates, and social community stakeholders. We need to open communication and empower our community members to be part of the solution. Above all, we cannot settle for a quick fix and call it success. We have a call to action. We have an opportunity for change, and we believe that the youth of our state are worth fighting for.